Welcome everyone to the AI East Bay Regional and Urban Design Forum. We are in Vacaville today, so we're trying to reach out to more of our chapter regions. You can see on this map, we're a vast chapter, and we're so excited that we could team up here with the Boys and Girls Club of Vacaville and do an event out here. We do events the first Thursday of every month. My name is Brian, and I'm co-chairing with Jay Castle and Tyler Kobick. We try to keep a variety of events based on urban design. A few other events that are going on throughout the Bay Area that are happening this month that we'd like to take note of is the AISF Urban Design Infrastructure Committee. Our friends over there are doing a tour of San Francisco tomorrow on Saturday from 10 to 12. Spur and ULI are doing a Housing by the Bay symposium on June 9th. The AIASF is doing a housing symposium on June 16th and 17th. And we are doing a great event, a follow-up to a presentation we had with Michael Piatak, a tour of one of his buildings, the transit-oriented development at the Fruitvale Station in Oakland. And for keep on your calendars, October, we do a shelter month. And this year we're doing home tours in Napa, and we'll have a whole bunch of other events associated with that. So it should be a great week and month of activities. So like I said, we're in Vacaville today, and we're excited about being here. The presentation today is called Building a Brighter Future, Vacaville Neighborhood Boys and Girls Club and their new facility. And our presenters today are Anna Eaton, the Chief Executive Director of the Vacaville Neighborhood Boys and Girls Club, the VNBGC. I don't know which one is more of a mouthful, but both are great. We have Michael Raymond. He is on the board here of Community Gifts and Committee. And the architect who's working on the facility here, Rob Henley, principal and owner of A2R Architects. So I'm going to hand it over to them to present, and please enjoy. If you have any questions as things come through, people that are online, please just put them in the chat and we'll address them at the end. For people here, small crew, so please interrupt and let's make it a conversation. All right, Michael.
Thank you, Brian. It's a pleasure to be with you all here in person and via Zoom. Enjoyed meeting together today.
Look at yourself, right? There we go. How's that?
Thank you. It'll be my pleasure to introduce two presenters that will be taking over from this point. First, I will introduce Anna Eaton. As Brian mentioned, is the executive director of the Vacaville Neighborhood Boys and Girls Club, and is the CEO of the VNBGC, where she has enjoyed challenges in the realm of nonprofits while working with her staff to engage with youth ages 6 to 18. She recently celebrated her 10th year with the club and is proud of fulfilling the club's strategic priority to meet kids where they're at by enlarging the club's capacity from 1 site to 9 sites. In her previous career, Anna strengthened her youth development and service background with the City of Fairfield in the Community Resources Department. Anna was named 11th Assembly District Woman of the Year by Assemblyman Jim Frazier and also 5th Congressional District Woman of the Year by Congressman John Garamendi for 2017. The Sroptimist International Club of Vacaville recognized her with the Ruby Award in 2021 and have founded Starbound Theater, now in its 19th year, to share the magic of theater with underserved youth, and the Youth Collaborative Committee that has successfully organized 6 teen summits since 2015. She served on the founding committee for the Solano Commission for Women and Girls, was the youth program director for the Vacaville Rotary Club in 2016 to 2018, the Will C. Wood Interact Club advisor from 2016 to 2018 and is a member of the Chinese American Association of Solano County, Asian Americans for Good Governance, and the Vacaville Youth Roundtable.
Zoom share. All right, try this again. Okay.
All right, we're good. Okay. My name is Michael Raymond. I'm a retired architect, and my education in architecture started in 1966 at Grand County Junior High School with a 4H and a 6H pencil and a T-square. And I retired 5 years ago. So Rob Henley is the architect of record for this project. He's principal and owner here from A2R Architects with a vast and diverse portfolio of successful projects in Northern California during his 44 years in architecture. Rob is widely recognized for his highly responsive, collaborative approach and effective leadership. He has practiced in Solano County throughout his long career as a principal at Bowles, Henley, and Watson Architects between 1981 and 1984, as a principal at TLCD Architecture from 98 to 2009, and prior to forming A2R Architects in 2014, was the principal and owner of Henley Architects and Associates. Rob's body of work includes many successful public, commercial, retail, office, and industrial projects, bringing a thorough understanding of the design and entitlement process to each. Rob brings a responsive, proactive approach and keen sense of detail to every project he leads, large or small. He excels in creating a strong team synergy that results in highly effective decision-making and design collaboration. As a lead accredited professional, Rob is a strong advocate for responsible design and development, integrating sustainable strategies as a fundamental aspect of the design process. Rob is also a member of the USGBC and Green Business Council of Solano County. His responsibilities in the firm include day-to-day management, marketing, programming, design, and construction administration. So as I said, welcome. I'm grateful to have you all here. Anna, if you'll go from here.
I'm gonna try one more thing here. How's that, Mike?
That's good. Now we're seeing the slides.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. And we're not moving to the next slide.
It's not moving.
Okay.
Page up, page up.
Page
Okay,
up, page.
page up, page down. All right, welcome everyone. My name is Anna and thank you for joining us today. I'm excited to share with you the work of the Boys and Girls Club, but also why it's important for our organization to embark on this project, which is to build our new home. Here we go. Wrong way, here we go. So Vacaville is one of 5 cities in Solano County. We are the only city that actually has Boys and Girls Club, but we do have future desire to expand into the other cities. Right now, we want to take care of where we started our roots, and that is in Vacaville. Our club became a 401c3 in 2003, and so next year we'll be celebrating our 20th anniversary. However, in the history of the Boys and Girls Club movement, we are infants. The Boys and Girls Club movement, which actually started as Boys Club, is over 150 years old. And so 20 years in that time period, means that we're pretty new to the game. However, it doesn't mean that we don't know what we're doing. I'm going to share information with you as if you didn't know what Boys and Girls Club was about. And so our mission is to inspire and empower the youth of our community, especially those who need us most, to reach their full potential as responsible, caring, and productive citizens. So I don't know how many out of school programs have a mission statement. We do, because we recognize that that period between 4 to 6 or 4 to 7 is really critical for kids that have nowhere to go. I think in our generation, we were primarily latchkey kids. And so that meant that we were at home making decisions on our own, not necessarily making the best decisions, but also we weren't supervised. And so we are here in the community to support the working families, and the families come in so many different makeups these days. It's sometimes the grandparent, it's sometimes one parent, and it's sometimes other family members or foster parents. And so we're here to provide the support to the children in the out of school time, which means after school and then during the summertime, of course. We are a part of National Boys and Girls Club. And so our model is a federated model, which means there are kind of parameters that all Boys and Girls Club work under. However, we work autonomously. And so we do get a lot of support from Boys and Girls Club of America. And most people probably tend to think, what kind of funding support do they provide? They don't necessarily provide funding support so much as they provide resources to us in terms of knowledge in building boards, knowledge in youth development, training for our staff, and also in making the connections on a national level. So as was mentioned, we do have more than one site. We are Zooming right now from our headquarters site, and it is currently under 2,000 square feet of operating space for our kids. And I'm sharing that information because it's a converted 7-Eleven facility with 3 different size rooms, and we try to make it work. Over the years, we've added a large gazebo. There's a sport court on the outside, but more importantly, the space that we have right now that we're operating in, we're confined to serving an X amount of kids because of the size that we have. And so it's really important for us as we are growing as an organization and strengthening our programs that we're able to serve the families that want to come into our program. One of the reasons why we embarked on this project is because year over year, there have been a wait list of families who've wanted to come into our program. And even though we've expanded and moved out to where kids are serving in community housing and also with working with the school district serving inside the schools, we still just cannot chip away fast enough at that wait list of families that want to get in. So, needless to say, we need to clean up our house. We need to grow a little bit more strategically and offer kids a space where they can not only be safe, but they can develop into young adults and be ready for their future. One of the things I wanted to share with you about Boys and Girls Club, because you're thinking, okay, out of school time, so the kids just come here and they can run around and, maybe we do arts and crafts with them. Yeah, a little bit of that happens, but also we do a lot more than that. There's a lot of life skills programming that happens. And the really great thing too is that we're not just serving school age kids, we're also serving middle school kids and high school kids. Because while the parents are feeling like the kids are older and can supervise themselves, most often that's when the kids get into a lot of trouble. And I think combine that with social media and technology, kids can get themselves into a lot more trouble. So they come here to our Boys and Girls Club and we keep them busy. And not only with just the fun things, but what's important is that they're connecting with an adult, a positive adult role model who can mentor them and help them with their academics, who is that positive voice in their life when they are having hardships at home or at school. And then at the same time, we're infusing other enrichment, some of the enrichment that they typically don't get if they don't come to the Boys and Girls Club. The majority of the families that we serve are low income. And at last check of our roster, about 82% of our families are low income families. That's not to say that we only serve low-income families, because I think at-risk youth is really, when people think about it, they think that it is kids who have the initial barrier of living in a low-income housing. But it's not the case. I think we see that kids, no matter what their socioeconomic background are, they're experiencing some sort of difficulty or challenge, and they need the support. And so we wish to be there for them, regardless of the family's income. But we do serve who we can, and the enrichment programs that I mentioned to you include music lessons and dance and theater and sports sometimes as well, things that other families would have to pay a fee to have their child participate in. But when their kids become club members here, they kind of get that as a package. And again, it's just to provide that exposure, so that kids know that they can find their passion and hone in on some skills, and know that there's something beyond the little world that they are a part of. But it's important for us to do that because, as I mentioned, not all families are able to provide that enrichment to their kids. And so for us, that's an opportunity to infuse things that they may not be aware of, and exposures that they've never been exposed to. We've taken the kids to the snow, and it kills me how many kids tell us it's their first time they've been to the snow, or to a theatrical performance, or to a symphony, or you name it. We try to expose the kids to it, because in addition to life skills programming, at the end of the day, we want to help preserve their innocence. We want them to be kids, in the way that we remember in our generation how things were a little bit simpler, but we want to provide that with them, for them. And so I will also add too that when they come here, they are off their devices. We actually take their devices from them, and unless they need to use it for a reason, they ask us for it. But other than that, we keep them so busy with so many different things that they don't ever really ask to be on their device. So I think that's a positive, right? We talked about the critical hours, the 3 to 7, and that's when most of the kids get in trouble. And that's why it's important for an organization like ours to exist. Right now in the nation, 1 out of 3 kids don't have somewhere to go. They don't have the resource. And so they're either latchkey kids, they're going home and they're supervising younger kids, but they're not making the positive adult connections that they should be in this out of school time. And so I was mentioning, this is the facility that we're operating out of, and I assure you it does not look like that right now. However, it was converted from a 7-Eleven, which was not a good fit for the community. We are nestled in a low income area. And so when you have something like 7-Eleven selling what they do, it's not the healthiest thing for that neighborhood. And so the city did take this facility back and then converted it into a neighborhood center. And I would think that that's maybe why the word neighborhood was kept in our title. However, the city did put together an advisory committee who suggested that a Boys and Girls Club should come in here, run programs for the children in this neighborhood. And so that's what happened 19 years ago. Currently in this facility, which is our headquarters, I mentioned that there are 3 rooms that we work with to, move and rotate the different ages of kids around. We can fit about 80 kids here, and that's a lot. And that's only because we're using every nook and cranny. And Mike is funny looking around here like, how in the world do you fit 80 kids here? We also have a very small staff office too, and when I'm fully staffed, I have about 32 other people coming in here to prep for the day with the children, and to have one small office makes it very challenging. So we need to do better for not only our children, but for our staff, the people who work with the kids. At this point, I think I'm going to turn this over to Rob and Michael to continue the presentation, but I really enjoyed telling you about the Boys and Girls Club. Hopefully you learned a little bit more if you didn't know anything about the Boys and Girls Club. But I will be back to wrap it up and share with you a little bit more about our capital campaign. All right, Rob.
Thank you. Thank you, Anna. And, good evening, everybody. Thanks for participating this evening. Much appreciated. It's great to be here to talk about the project. We've been engaged with the Boys and Girls Club for about 2 years, 2.5 years, and on the project. And we're in it for the long haul, obviously. We support them, participate in various events, bowling, golf. Our firm, we try to give back. Both my partner and I are involved heavily in Rotary as well, so we're very much connected to the community. But what I want to do is talk a little bit about a lot of, I guess, with the time that I have about the project specifics. You can see on this particular slide, the site for the project is located where the blue bubble is, and right below that is the, oh yeah, thank you. Right below that is a relatively new Solano County Health and Social Services building. That building was constructed about 8 or 10 years ago. And the site is on Brown Street. Brown Street is a two-way collector street, 2-lane collector street. And Monte Vista is a 4-lane arterial street. So contextually, that's kind of where we're at. Here's Interstate 80 on the lower right-hand corner. Down takes you to Fairfield and eventually to the East Bay and beyond. Up takes you to Dixon, Davis, and Sacramento. The site that we're talking about, the site from a zoning standpoint is zoned for this particular use, and it's going to be developed concurrently with a City of Vacaville project. Before we got involved in the project, Boys and Girls Club had extensive discussions with the city, and concurrently with our building being designed and constructed, the city is designing and will have constructed a project, an office building essentially for the housing division of the city. So zones in and around the neighborhood or central commercial. Again, up Brown Street, north of the up off the screen to the top, we have Markham Elementary School, and the property surrounded by various commercial zones and districts. The site's accessible by foot, obviously, and by car. There's some public transportation, bus pickups out in front of the Solano County Health and Social Services building as well for public transportation. So let's see here. Next slide. This illustrates the slide, or the image on the left indicates this is an image of the City of Vacaville's planning zoning map. It indicates where the red arrow is, where the site is, and the various zones around that particular piece of property vary from low density to medium density and high density residential. And most of the properties surrounding the site are service commercial and general commercial. Yeah, isn't that something? This site plan is the current proposed site plan of the project. And in this form, the buildings, the proposed 2 buildings are bubble images at this point. North is to the left, Brown Street. Monte Vista is on the right side, and you can see the Solano County Health and Social Services building there. And I think through the evolution of the site plan design, which is being handled by an architect from Davis, from a master planning site, I think the original design had the 2 buildings forward, fronting on Brown Street. I think through some neighborhood meetings and some feedback, the buildings got pushed to the east or towards the back and let the playfield buffer the proposed buildings. The proposed site plan has a walking paths around the perimeter in the playfield. various outdoor apparatus areas. And the Boys and Girls Club is on the upper left-hand corner. And again, immediately to the left is some low-density housing, and you can see across that proposed courtyard the housing offices that's proposed. I guess one of the challenges for me as an architect is those are pretty distinctly different uses. You got basically a civic complex and a civic building and Boys and Girls Club. So that's one of the design challenges that, you know, again, the images in the floor plan that we're going to show you are conceptual in nature, and they're still evolving.
So the scale of those two buildings,
Right.
Those are all big civic buildings.
Yeah, those will be the proposed in the bubbles in this particular area, Boys and Girls Club and the housing project. They're all similar in scale, but you know, I think the look of a public building is, in my mind, going to be very different than what, you know, the Boys and Girls Club might look like. Not necessarily a civic building. Once something, the image for the kids and the people that support the program is something different than maybe what a traditional civic building might be. So that's one of the design challenges. But again, this is the site plan as it lies today. Again, parking to the top part of the plan, access off of Monte Vista, coming in through the Solano County Health and Social Services parking lot. We got a drop-off area and a plaza between the two. This is a conceptual floor plan that we generated about a year and a half ago. We went through a programming process with Anna and others within the organization. Before we even started designing anything, it was basically a programming exercise, talking about the desired spaces, the function, and the uses for the facility. And through that process, the programming process, we're coming up with a building that was about 8,000 or 8,500 square feet. And this was the proposed layout, still very much in a schematic sense. The fact, when we designed this floor plan, the building was down fronting on Brown Street and still oriented in a similar fashion, but we may have to go back and adjust some things. But programmatically, the spaces are depicted here. We had a large meeting room with a catering kitchen, table and chair storage, your standard restrooms, and the bottom left-hand corner, a secured lobby. You enter, then you have some security and some secured architectural features before you can actually just go into the space. Adjacent to the meeting room is a recreational space. Across the corridor from there, we have offices, reception area, conference room, break room, and some offices. And adjacent to the recreation space, we have a computer lab and a STEM classroom on the upper right-hand corner. And across the corridor from those is a proposed art classroom. So again, the building is about 8,000, 8,500 square feet, single-story building. And when we work with Anna and David Esparza, who's on the board, after we went through a programming exercise, I'm a big advocate of using a kit of parts, cutting out proposed spaces and sitting down with them in an interactive manner, moving these images around and coming up with concepts, photographing them, ones that were strong, going back and laying them out into the computer. But again, I think this fits the project programmatically. And again, some of the pieces may get pushed around depending on where the ultimate home or the site of the building is. But we tried to buffer the meeting room in the upper left-hand corners, a bigger space, and it's taller. And we try to buffer that a little bit with lower uses on the left side there with the kitchen and table storage and the custodial space. So we have some of these images that I'm going to show you. The exterior were generated in Revit in their preliminary nature, show you the general massing and approach to the building. We try to keep it relatively simple, wood frame construction. I'm sure we might have some structural steel in it, but nothing over the top from a budgetary standpoint and ease of construction standpoint. And so I think what we're using is maybe some the dark siding on the bottom and where the logos for the Boys and Girls Club are, maybe a synthetic siding, Trex, cement plaster and metal roof. And we try to make a very comfortable, warm, inviting, and safe environment for the kids to promote the mission of the Boys and Girls Club as well. So that's conceptually the approach that we were taking. Again, the upper image is an aerial, and the one on the bottom is a perspective, a street shot. Again, we're trying to keep the scale down and make it a comfortable place for the kids. These are some two-dimensional images as well. Some cross sections as well. Higher space. The section at the top, and this, you can see the higher meeting room space with the lower support spaces to the left, hallways and classrooms as well. Prior to starting the design process, I think actually during the proposal stage, Anna shared that there was a recently completed Boys and Girls Club over in American Canyon that was a very nice facility. I went over and visited it and did some research on various websites to get an idea of what these facilities are about. But we like many of the features of the American Canyon facility. These obviously are some interior shots, polished concrete floors, very bright, lively interior, a bit industrial looking with the exposed ductwork and exposed fire sprinkler pipes and structure, which is, a wonderful space. It's very successful and very well attended. I visited it, I don't know, a few years ago. So, and here's some additional shots of some of the classrooms, and the image on the right is the lobby with some donor recognition on some plaques. Very well done. But
it does have roll-up doors on that one so that you could go in and out.
yeah, they did. The image on the one thing that was nice about. Oh, I'm sorry. The question from the audience was about the roll-up doors on the image that you see on the right hand side rather. And yes, they are overhead doors. And this particular property was contiguous to a park, some really nice outdoor spaces, and they would roll those up, and you had a patio just beyond the outdoor areas. And it was very well done. I mean, those kinds of features are great. But it comes with some supervision challenges. But anyway, it was a nice feature, very nice feature.
I think it was done because there were a lot of city events that they partnered with the Boys and Girls Club, and so when they had weekend events in the park there, the club would open up the facility in that way.
Yeah, Anna just mentioned that the facility was used for a number of other public functions, and during those functions, they can open up those overhead doors and have the outdoor space in and vice versa. So, but again, that's kind of where we're at. Very excited to move forward into the next phase of the project. And anyway, thanks for listening. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Anna.
All right, I'm back. I'm not as tall as Rob, so I'm gonna adjust this. Are we good there? Okay. All right, so our work really actually started years ago, although the culmination of the meat of the work began in 2020. Can you imagine that year? So this is not a job that just myself has undertaken. We've built a committee. And so what you're looking at is a chart of our organization for our capital campaign, because we needed to secure the funding to put in place so that we can begin to erect the structure, which we're really excited about. So the Capital Campaign Committee is overseen by our steering committee. And of course, we also have an advisory council who are endorsers and lead us to some of our connections and resources. We had a prospect identification task force that went through a wealth screen of our community and also donors in our database to kind of determine who were the people that we should be talking to about this project. We also had the communication and cultivation team who put together the messaging of our campaign. And so you see the Building Brighter Futures logo up top there, our kids, our club, our community. That was kind of something they landed on, and they designed the brochure and other marketing pieces for us. And then, of course, the fundraising committees are down below in the orange, the Leadership Giving Committee, the Major Gifts Committee, and the Community Gifts Committee. So 2 years ago, after we had concluded our feasibility study, 2 years ago, if you remember, it was a little bit different than it is right now. We did determine that we would be successful at raising $4.5 million. And therefore, at the time, this is the size facility that we can build. And so for that size, what could we put in it? And that's what we worked with Rob on, the conceptual design of what the interior looks like, how it was going to serve the children. Each of the different rooms were going to feature a different kind of programming. So room that's more conducive to STEM experiments. And then another room that would be more conducive to arts and dance and crafts. And then of course, another room that was more for technology. And so right now our campaign for $4.5 million to build this facility is we've achieved 77% of that goal, and we're marching towards the completion of our fundraising. So that's really exciting news. And I have our committee members to thank for that. And in order to achieve those results, we of course had naming opportunities. And so what you're looking at is what we had shared with the donors that we spoke to. We made personal presentations. And so really for the first year and a half, we were quietly fundraising in the community and talking to those certain people that were identified. And as you can see here, we were pretty successful. We have some large donors at the $500,000 level. One is an individual, one is a large corporate foundation. And there are many, many other names that are not on this naming opportunity list because they really just wanted to give to a project that they believe in. And so they weren't, they didn't need to see their name there. And I think that's great too. But it was enticing for some folks to kind of leave a legacy for the city of Vacaville and for the children. Because, one of the things that I tell our donors all the time is that this building is going to stand long after we're gone. So the work that we do right now is going to be impactful for many, many, many generations. And that's why, for me, completing this is so important. I know what the Boys and Girls Club means to many, many kids. It's their second home. And so many of them move on to have successful lives. They stay in touch with us. Some of them get employed by us. And we're starting to see children of former club members. I've been here long enough to make me feel old. But really, it's an asset to the community, the life skills programming. When we're talking to kids about how do we prevent bullying? How do we raise a healthier generation? What does healthy habits look like? What happens to your body as you go through puberty? How do you manage money when you actually start working? And the list goes on. It's career and college exploration as they get older, and definitely a lot of leadership development for our kids. They work on community service projects because they know that the community that invests in them, at some point, they're going to want to turn around and invest back in the community as well. And so that's one of the things that we teach the kids. And that's why it's important for us to build a larger facility to serve more kids and to whittle away that wait list that we have. When you're looking a little bit closer, and I know this list has expanded because it's been maybe a couple of months since I've updated this, but here is our honor roll of donors. And so if you saw that prior slide that Rob shared with you where there was a wall that had a lot of names on it. That's what we would be intending to do too, is recognize all of the people who worked to put this together with us. And so we're gonna start to close this presentation out. I know that, you know, probably what was more exciting for you was maybe the architectural work and renderings. But I hope I got you a little bit excited about our project too and what it means for all the children here. In addition to that, you know, it employs more people. It's a positive place for the community. And again, it is something that will continue to serve the community long after we are gone. So if you were ever interested in participating in this campaign, however you can, and you know, I never say no if people want to donate money, but you know, there are many gifts that so many of us have. And so if there's a way that you want to share some of your time and your talent or your treasure to help us with this project, I would say now is the time. It's so that we can have a dedicated youth facility, which we don't have right now in this community. We would be more accessible to more kids. Our staff are trained and dedicated to serving and working with the kids. And of course, it's affordable to all. Most of our kids don't pay to come here, and we are feeding them not only with time and attention and life skills programming, but we're also feeding them meals too. And we're responding to our community when our community needs it, especially during the pandemic and the fires that we've had. So hopefully I've inspired you a little bit. As you know, I continue to be inspired by this work, and I'm going to share one more slide. And ta-da, that is the QR code if you so wish to donate to our campaign right there. And these are actual children that we served during the pandemic. And that was their first look at the renderings of the facility that, you know, we thought it was just a cute picture. And so I thank you for your time today. I'm so proud to be able to present this alongside with Rob and with Michael. Mike and Brian, thank you for putting this together. I really appreciate it and wish I could meet you guys in person, but I think we're at the Q&A portion.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right, so we're gonna have you come back up.
Well, I'm ready to put my name on the waiting list to get into it. I know I might be a little outaged, but it sounds like a wonderful place to be. So thank you, Anna, Mike, for actually contacting us and getting this together, putting it on our radar. And that really meets our mission of the chapter. So I'm really excited about having it. And Rob, good work. Really appreciate your time and effort here. So it's a smaller group today. So if anyone has questions, either here or online, please feel free to unmute, or you can use the chat and I can ask the people here to respond.
I'd like to thank, my name's Dan Scully. I'm here with my wife, Kathy Hanley. Really enjoyed the presentation. Thank you to Michael, Rob, and Brian for getting it together. What is the orientation set up for solar? Did that go into anybody's thoughts, and or what are your thoughts?
I guess so, yeah, probably best. Yeah, Rob's gonna come up and answer that question. Thank you.
Okay.
There's a solar question.
Yeah, good. I heard the question and good question. We can handle solar depending on the orientation. If you noticed on the exterior elevation, the multi-purpose building or the multi-purpose room had a inverted butterfly roof. Panels can go there, and we have a good portion of the building has a relatively flat roof on it, and we can get panels there as well. So it'll be at least solar ready. We may not put panels on it initially, but it'll be solar ready. And I think the design of the building can handle panels in a number of ways. So thank you for the question.
Thank you.
Out here, I'm sure solar is very popular. I came from Oakland this afternoon to here and it was like 62 degrees. I had my winter jacket in the car. I had my puffy jacket on, and I got out here, it was 90, 91 degrees. So yeah, solar sounds like a wonderful opportunity. Question, are there any bus lines or other public transportation nearby?
Yes.
To the new sites, I guess. Yes, there is. Yes, there are.
Yeah, there's a bus stop right in front of that, the county building. Right
Okay, that makes
around the
sense.
corner. It's probably less than 200 yards from the site.
Is there any plans for light rail in Vacaville to connect to Sacramento? A lot of head shaking no.
No, I don't think rail-wise, there may be some master plan out there.
Because it's that Link 21 program. I think it was Sacramento to San Jose through various means. I guess Capital Quarters probably involved that. You guys have a stop here, right?
Right in Fairfield, right
Yeah.
just
Oh,
south.
Fairfield.
Yeah,
Okay,
by Travis.
got it. Okay, Michael, you had a question? Are you gonna add? Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Wow, that's a good name.
So there's a question here about the national organization, and we actually have a lot of heavy hitters because they were former club kids. So Condoleezza Rice actually lives in the Palo Alto area, and she actually supports the Boys and Girls Club down in that area. She's been to functions in Oakland to guest speak, and I've attended those. But on a national level, there are a lot of people who are recognized as alumni for the Boys and Girls Club because they had time there. And so I think the name Denzel Washington is someone that people recognize. He's our national spokesperson. He was a little guy when he started at the club and still remembers his mentor's name. And then when Boys Club became Boys and Girls Club in the 90s, they added J-Lo as a co-spokesperson. She was a club kid as well, was introduced to dance at her club. And so we have so many other alumni. But aside from the stars that are a part of, what we do, our Boys and Girls Club really, I think the national movement is an amazing thing because, the focus really is to serve and reach more kids, despite their socioeconomic background, despite what is happening in the nationally, locally, that we pivot and adjust to serve our kids in the best ways that we can, and to be there for families. Because as you know, it's easier to raise a healthy child than to fix a broken adult, right? And so that's kind of the focus of our work. What else can I say about the national organization? So much. It is a federated model, as I said, and so there are bylaws and structures that we have to follow. I am governed by a board of directors, as all Boys and Girls Club are, as the national level is. And our local group was recognized to be the Area Council of the Year, which is kind of like a conglomerate of Boys and Girls Club board members locally. And so we're doing some great things here in our small city, putting Vacaville on the map. Nationwide, there are over 4,000 clubs, and we serve wherever we can. So we serve in rural, urban lands, we serve on tribal land, we serve on military installations. And so actually the next closest neighboring Boys and Girls Club would be Travis Air Force Base. Yeah.
When we were talking,
Sure.
but when we were talking, preparing for this presentation, we were talking about this idea of how you really are concerned on the local needs, right? These local chapters or local clubs all are addressing. So what, I know there's a lot of kids who need, what do they need? Like what makes it specific to Vacaville, this facility, or how are you, or maybe how is the new facility going to try to address some of those concerns?
Okay.
Kind of take it any way you want.
Yes. So how does the new facility address some of our local concerns?
Yeah.
Okay. So aside from kids not having somewhere to go, right? Most of the after school programs are fee-based, and not everybody can afford fee-based programs. And that's why you have kids that stay at home or they're hanging out with friends on the street. In our neighborhood that we're in right now, it is, as I mentioned, predominantly low income housing. The Norteño gang members also kind of reside in this neighborhood as well, although they are really, there is a understanding, right? It's an unsaid understanding. They know the work that we do, and so they really leave us alone. And they leave our children alone too, but sometimes we can't go to the park because their presence is there. So we are trying to prevent children from entering gangs because gangs offer the same thing we do. They offer acceptance, they offer the ability to network, and they offer connection to other people. But we do it in a positive way, and we want to set them up for a positive future. And so that's kind of why it's important for us to have a presence here. And Brown Street is really just a block away from where our main facility is that we're zooming from right now. So I would say that's one of the important things. But really, coming out of the pandemic, a lot of kids were struggling. Even the kids that had support here were struggling during that time. And this past school year, although school was reopened, kids just had a really difficult time catching up. There was kind of a year of learning loss for them. And so for those who were not successful at Zooming and meeting with their teachers virtually, and some flat out refused to, it was a difficult year of catching up. And so we saw that manifest in behavioral issues with the children. The schools primarily see that, and then that trickles into our after school program as well. And so again, we're there to support their academic success and wanting to make sure that not only are they supported in that way, but hey, what is it you're feeling today? And can we talk about it, and let's get you through this, and let's take a step back and take a deep breath, and then let's move forward. And so a lot of our work has been social emotional for our children in preparing them for meeting these challenges that they're going to have, because life is going to happen, right? We can't prevent challenges. We can't prevent bad things from happening, but we can help them understand how they can react to it. And so our staff, just coming out of the pandemic, we focused on trauma-informed care for our kids. So, you know, I talk about after school programming. It's become a lot more than that for all the kids that we serve. But hopefully that answered your question.
That's great.
Okay. Any other questions? So the question is, if the kids don't live here, they live further away, how do they get here? So pre-pandemic, we did have a transportation program. Like a lot of folks, we are having issues with staffing back up because I don't know where the people are to hire. But we will get there. I think everything will balance itself out again. And we're hoping to have our transportation program up and running again. But there are 9 other locations that the kids can go to. I'm sorry, not 9 other locations, but there are 8 locations that the kids can go to on the school campuses. And so we're hoping to catch them there as well. And if not, we are transporting them here. And the goal is to transport them to the larger facility as well. That's a good question. We have 2 vans. Yes. Yes.
So do you
Jeanette.
own the land, and the campaign is for the building itself?
We do not own the land. The question is, do we own the land? And is the campaign just for the building? The campaign is actually to purchase the land and also build the building and all of the other costs associated with it, the fees, the permits, the licensing, the labor, everything.
So does the county own it? Is that the county owns it?
The city owns it. The city, yeah. So that 4-acre property is owned all by the city, and it's our intent to purchase 1 acre of that to build on that. But by purchasing an acre from the city, that actually kind of removes us from some of the bureaucracies, and therefore allows us to accept in-kind donations. If there was a roofer that wanted to supply us with the material, and then a contractor that wanted to donate the labor, we would be able to accept that.
So does it still belong to the city?
Currently, yes. Yeah. Currently, it still belongs to the city.
Can you keep this facility?
You know, I would love to keep this facility and convert this into a teen center. That our teenagers need a place to go to, and we do serve teenagers all the way up to seniors. So we have 5 seniors, I think, graduating this year. So yeah, and the interesting thing about when they are seniors is that, or when they are teenagers, is that it's no longer something their parents make them come to. They kind of choose to come here on their own, which is really cool. We have a lot of fun programming for them as well too.
I had a question about the engagement of the kids in the design process. It sounds like you met with staff. And I'm sure there's plenty of opportunities as you continue to go on to really get them engaged in this idea of architecture, planning, all these things. I was wondering if you had either done it before or have plans to do that as part of your next phase of work.
Sure. Very good question. I know, as I mentioned in my portion of the presentation, during the design process, we created a kit of parts, basically a block for each space, and sat down with Anna and David from the board and worked through some concepts. I gave the kit of parts to Anna and David and said, you guys go do your thing with staff members, and presumably kids were engaged. I wasn't involved in that part of it, but they were, and came back with a concept or two. So, but anyway, great question.
We did not, only because when so we, hi everyone again. So we didn't engage kids only because when we're looking at designing the facility, we have to think about safety. So if we were to involve them in it, we would probably end up redoing it anyway. But definitely they're gonna be a part of designing what goes inside. What do they want their games room to look like? Yeah, so hopefully that makes sense.
So I have one more question. You know, you said this started in 2020, and you know, the building costs and everything has gone up so much. So do you think your $4.5 million is going to be enough?
The question is, do I think the $4.5 million is going to be enough? Because those were numbers from 2019. No. And yeah, sadly, where we are today is where we are today. So I think $4.5 million is minimally, and we need to work on engaging contractors, people who are willing to give and who would love to work on a project like this. And we have found some so far. I mean, we are willing and ready to accept in-kind donations. And so some of that will help with some of the costs, but you know, I'm hoping by the time we break ground, things will maybe readjust back down. But as it stands right now, $4.5 million, I can tell you, is not going to be enough to build this facility. Yeah, thank you. Good question. But we're optimistic it's going to get done. Yes, Michael.
I have a question for you and Rob, perhaps together. Is the design of each space, do you see specific to a particular function, or should be more kind of generic that could have a multitude of functions?
So the question is the design of each room to serve a particular function, or is it going to be kind of like a generic thing, multi-use? Yeah. So to answer that question, I want you guys to know that the range of kids that we work with, we break them up into age groups. And so you're not, you know, sticking a 6-year-old with a 12-year-old and serving them the same program. It's age appropriate programming that we do. And so in the cluster of kids that we have, the rooms will be more geared towards functions that happen in there. I mentioned like one room will be more STEM based. And so they can get dirty and messy in there. We wouldn't have to worry about ruining anything. And then there's going to be a room that is more for performing arts or arts. Again, they can get messy, or there could be a wall with a mirror if there was a dance program. And so the children in their groups would rotate around to the different rooms, giving them exposure to each of the different things we have. So it's not necessarily a generic space. It's definitely going to have an intentional focus, a subject focus. Yeah.
The question about security, the subject of safety, how important is it to have sight lines on the kids at all times versus spaces that might be less visible between rooms. Also, I wonder just like what the biggest, beyond that also, I think that should be addressed for sure, but what the biggest like challenge of designing a facility like this is from architecture standpoint. I know there's the cost and all that's super challenging.
Yeah.
It sounds like you guys are on that. Just like the approach and like what you see is.
Right.
So yeah, just safety and then just overall.
So I'll let Rob talk a little bit and then I'll talk about safety too.
No, good question. I guess one of the challenges of developing a floor plan that's kind of linear in nature is that you know from the entry point, once you go into that lobby and beyond the lobby, you go through a security area and you get into the building, is that you can look and see down the corridor of activity. In each classroom, there will be an instructor and perhaps an aide from that standpoint. And the building is not that large. It's about 8,000 square feet. So from that standpoint, we've looked at open plans before in public schools and other types of facilities similar to this. And if you could, I think the site and in the area that we have to design the building, it kind of naturally ended up being more of a linear type plan. So, I mean, there's cameras that can help with the security, and the spaces will be supervised for the most part, is my understanding. So, I don't know, Anna, would you like to?
Do like an Apple building, Apple headquarters donut.
Oh, yeah.
In the middle.
That's right.
Yeah, so safety is really a priority for us in many ways. And I will say, hold on, let me get a drink of water. So Rob is right. There is going to be a linear line of vision for staff, but we are going to have staff with children all the time. And safety is really on personnel and in our processes. And so when a child leaves one room to go somewhere, the person next up is notified. For instance, there is a communication between a child leaving to use the bathroom heading up to the main facility. The person up here is notified that that's happening. And so we are knowing and understanding movement of kids. And so if somebody doesn't come back for a while, we're looking for them. But that hasn't been an issue. Security for me, I think, is making sure that there is a good linear line of vision for our staff and not making it hard for them. But also our front door needs to be secured. There needs to be a lobby that has the locking outer door and a locking inner door that people cannot just access, right? So if you're looking behind me, you see the accordion door right there. And beyond the accordion door is our front lobby, kind of a games room as well. And I think those are my staff that are ending their day. But anyhow, my point in bringing that up is if somebody were to come through the front and wanted to access the children and we're really determined to do that, this accordion door is not going to do anything. But at our new facility, Rob had designed a dedicated front lobby that also had another entry to where the rest of the kids would be. And so that's really important. To have alarms on the other external doors that we will have is important too. Right now, the only point of entry is really right here. So the kids only have one place that we can lose them at, and we have somebody staff there all the time. But you know, when we're thinking about safety, we're thinking about that when we are designing and talking to Rob about what the facility needs to do for us. Yeah. Sure.
Floor plan again, just might be interesting to go back and just see it under those under that lens. PowerPoint.
I guess we're not sharing, are we? Are we sharing? Right, so I guess, so what, this is the main entry here? No, yeah. And then this is your big line of sight, this down this big corridor, you can kind of see everything, the big spine. This space here, oh, is it is? Oh, that's awesome. Oh, that's great. So you have it here, you have this huge gazebo, which you showed me this picture earlier on, which was just amazing. So, but you have this big park in front of the building here, I guess, right? So you'll have the opportunity maybe to gather those bigger events, or just because you have a bigger facility, you don't maybe not need that as much.
Well, so as you're looking at the design right here, this large multi-purpose room, we're going to call the Celebration Center, because I was sharing with him that we had an event yesterday and we brought all the children from all the sites together to celebrate their academic year. So this is the room where it would be hosted, but this room opens up to the games room, and so we can actually fit more people using both of the spaces together. We do a lot of things that involve the families, such as our Thanksgiving parties, our Thanksgiving dinner, and then our Christmas party. We like to bring parents in as often as we can to celebrate with the children. And so it's important for us to have a large space. Right now, because we're limited on space, we do it in the backyard of our current headquarters. And, there's a lot of noise pollution. So, but that's what we have to do for now.
That's great. Yeah, it looks like a lot of thought went into for a concept plan. Good job, Rob. Any other additional questions before we close out today? No. All right. Well, I thank everyone here for attending. Thank everyone for setting this up and being able to present. Anna, Michael, Rob, it was really insightful. It's good to get the Boys and Girls Club back in our minds. I think I kind of had forgotten that they were around. I think when I was young, I'd heard about them, and now being really engaged with it is really exciting. So look forward to hearing your updates, and we'll talk about any participation if chapter members can help you out in some way. All right, well, have a great evening. Go Warriors.
Yeah. Thank you very much.